Yes.
Yeah. Today in this session, we have Dr. Faiyaz A. Khudsar with us. If you have heard of Yamuna Biodiversity Park, you undoubtedly must be knowing our next speaker. Yes, you are right. He is none other than Dr. Faiyaz, the person behind the origin and maintenance of Yamuna Biodiversity Park. Dr. Faiyaz is a wildlife biologist and the scientist in charge of the park. Setting an example for environmental conservation in the country, the Yamuna Biodiversity Park has grown from a barren land to a rich ecosystem with thousands of plants, animals, and hundreds of bird species, as well as a closed canopy forest with trees as high as 45 feet. It all happened because of the hard work, commitment, and efforts put up by Dr. Faiyaz. He's true example of environmental conservation. His talk will be on healing the earth during lockdown. With these words, I request Dr. Faiyaz to start his talk.
Thank you so much. I hope I am
Dr.
laudable.
Faiyaz,
Actually,
please.
it is a teamwork and it's a big team under the supervision of a legendary ecologist, Professor C.R. Babu. Uh, Actually, it's very interesting. Today, topic I have been asked to do something different, but I don't know. I will turn it in a
Hello, am
different
I
way.
audible?
So, yes, yes. Are you listening to me?
Yes,
Hello, am I audible?
yes, yes.
Yes, yes,
Mansu
yes.
ma'am, you are audible and we are also listening, Dr. Fair. Both of you are audible.
Okay, done, done. So actually, I will be talking more about looking at the problem in recent past, that how biodiversity park can be seen as a tool for maintaining what you call urban sustainability. That's a term which need to be addressed very, uh, frequently and differently. Because when you see the next slide, I don't know, slide is not operating. How it will operate?
So, share,
Dr. Sumit?
yeah, just okay. If you are not able to do it, I can do it. Yes, next slide is here.
Very slide. I couldn't see. If you see the next slide, it shows about the locust, isn't it?
Yeah.
Locust is traveling from Rajasthan towards Delhi, and people are worried. In the morning, I got many photographs of different insects saying that is it a locust from none other than many media person from Delhi. It shows that how people have started, thinking about an insect which looks so dangerous when it flies in mass. Not only that, when you look at next slide again, the recent we had suffered from very difficult time. That was nothing but a very serious cyclone, what we call it a super cyclone Amphan, which has created serious issue. Many dead, more than 70, 80 million people were affected. Many were evacuated, and there were huge loss, monetary loss in our country and in neighboring countries. So therefore, looking at the perspective where one more pandemic which has created big issue in India and across the globe, that is COVID-19, and this topic become very important and pertinent when the world is facing a pandemic, COVID-19 or coronavirus, which is 2019. You must be knowing that the moment COVID, word COVID has been started discussing, now it's quite worrying that the world lose critical time to turn around alarming trend in biodiversity loss and climate change. And the resource allocated to fight COVID-19 might mean fewer resources for biodiversity initiative later on. But this COVID-19 also gives you a hope that this pandemic will motivate efforts to address the relationship between drivers of biodiversity loss and human health. And therefore, biodiversity becomes very, very different. Could you see the presentation? I could see on my screen, but I don't know. Could you manage to run presentation to me?
Yes, I am running. I am on the slide 4. What is biodiversity?
So now when you look at biodiversity become very important. When you look at the definition of biodiversity, it is so complicated that, you know, uh, going through it become very difficult task. So I came out with my own definition, simple definition, which can, give you, especially for the student, it become very easy to understand that how you see biodiversity. when you see biodiversity, it could be seen not, simply as a, species alone, it's, but it is variety and variability of life forms, right from microbes to human beings and their habitat, what constitutes known as biodiversity. So why biodiversity is so important? If you see next slide, if I manage to run it. So when you see that, run. Yes, now I can run. Don't
Yes,
worry.
okay. Okay, fine.
So when you see this, why do we need biodiversity, and why we are shouting so much and talking about something which we never interact with? Grasses never talk to you, plants never talk to you, insect never talk to you, but still we are shouting, fighting, struggling to see that how biodiversity survives, because it is basis for our survival. And when it becomes basis for our survival, it becomes very, very important that we all should look at it very seriously. The air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, all comes from biodiversity. In fact, most of the crops domesticated from the wild. If you remember, a very good example about the rice variety, that's IR36, which once it vanished from the Indian subcontinent when one of the fungus pathogen has created serious problem for the rice. Then finally, a wild rice variety was obtained from somewhere from Uttarakhand, probably near Rajaji National Park, and that has been improved further. And now the rice available in the country is IR36 we are enjoying. And therefore, these forest areas are not only green patches, but they are kind of bank. They are not bank for food, water, and air, but they are bank for human health. Most of the important drugs being, sourced from forest areas. So whatever you use in everyday in your life is part of your biodiversity. Then when you look at sustainability, it's very important to understand that how you define sustainability. Actually, sustainability is an ability of an ecosystem to maintain ecological processes over longer period of time. And not only over longer period of time, but if it faces external stresses, even though it maintains ecological processes over a longer period of time. Now you may ask, what are the ecological processes? When you look at the ecological processes, it may be seen as biogeochemical cycle, evolution, succession. These are very common ecological process which takes place and makes your ecosystem functional. But it also faces a lot of external stresses. And most of the external stresses are man-made or calamity or pandemic, flood, even earthquakes and pandemic like COVID-19. So when your ecosystem becomes so strong and robust that even under such a serious external stress it survives and functions, then it operates well and gives you what you call goods and services. So therefore, if you look at it, biodiversity of an ecosystem contributes to sustainability of the ecosystem, and therefore biodiversity is very important. How human beings, reacted and behaved over a period of time, which leads to some of the very famous extinction. When you look at this beautiful bird dodo, dodo has gone from Mauritius because human beings started settling to the side, and now when they found beautiful fat ball in the form of bird, they started killing that bird. Not only that, they introduced many domesticated animals like dogs and cats. They further, they further killed them, and they, encroached upon their nesting areas and eaten away eggs, etc. And finally, you don't have dodo. Not only that, when in recent past, you see, in 20th century itself, we have lost a beautiful bird from India and Myanmar, Bangladesh, that was pink-headed duck. Now it is restricted to postal stamp, which clearly suggests that when you look at something, a bird which is very specific and particular to marshy area, how our greediness has explore and encroach to those marshes to create agriculture field, and ultimately that is species we have lost. So what happened when you lost something? If you remember the local extinction of tiger from Sariskan, Panna in 2016, it's a very, very big story, an ecological disaster that when in 1972, Project Tiger was initiated, and initial 9 protected areas were included as a part of Project Tiger. It was thought that tiger population will increase from 1,900 to many, many hundred. And sometimes some of the data says that it become 4,500, but suddenly Panna and Sariska has lost its tiger. So what happened to Panna? Because I was part of Panna for a couple of years, so I could see that when tiger gone, many mesopredator came inside, and when a lot of mesopredator releases in wild, then the ground, the what do you call it, ground turnoff become very, very high. Mesopredator like wildcat, if you see, mongoose, if you see, leopard, if you can see, foxes, you can see, then the ground food chain become very, very disrupted. And when this mesopredator comes out, what you call as ecological release of mesopredator, which is a serious problem, ecological problem in the system. So sustainable ecosystem is better for environment and people, and increasing sustainability is important and can only be achieved by increasing biodiversity of an area. So you see, the recent COVID-19 also suggests that to look at the zoonotics. It's very important to understand that how does biodiversity loss and land use changes cause increase in zoonotic disease. I was trying to understand, and I could see 3 parts, very pertinent to understand about it, because most of the time, especially in urban setup, we are encroaching too much in the ecosystem, and this continue, and we come in continuous contact with wildlife and human beings and their livestock. And in fact, livestock become bridges to bring zoonotic diseases from wildlife to human beings. And if you see, there are many common wildlife species thrive in human dominated landscape. They are rodents and bats, and they usually largely cause many, many diseases, which I further discuss with you. When you see more pathogen being carried by these surviving wildlife species in simplified ecosystem, pathogens tend to be diluted in complex and disturbed ecosystem. I need to explain this third point that is very, very important, which clearly suggests that if an ecosystem which has complex system, which has complex web, food web, then probably pathogens tend to be diluted. Means even though you have viruses and bacteria, but they tend to dilute it, and their impact would be reduced drastically to the human beings. But when you encroach in the ecosystem, you simplified the ecosystem. You break the trophic structure of the ecosystem. So it becomes so simplified that the pathogen being carried by wildlife in those simplified ecosystem easily being carried to human beings. This very important point need to be understood. So when you look at the increasing population of human beings, we are frequently interacting with the what do you call wildlife species and the pathogen they carry. And today, about 8 billion humans exploit almost every portion of ecosystem of the planet. And in fact, if you see some of the numbers, you probably will shock to know that more than 4.7 billion cattle, pigs, sheep, and goats, and 23.7 billion chickens on the earth. In fact, we are living on cultivated planet. In fact, when you have cultivated planet, then you tend to get more pathogens such as COVID. So most of the diseases studies suggest that most of the diseases emerge in human from the animal, or domestic or wild, both the animals. And so far, more than 400 diseases came from animals. In fact, jumped from animals to human beings in 60 years. And these diseases are called as zoonotic diseases. For example, if you see HIV jump from primates to human, Ebola is linked to deforestation jump from bat to human. And in Latin America, if you see several different examples of hemorrhage fever, like hantavirus was one of the very famous virus in recent past. And recently, Bolivia, we have Machupa virus that jumped from rodents into humans, causing very quickly high mortality. So there are, when you look at the COVID-19 hypothesis that how it jumped into human beings, the recent publication in nature, which suggested that first it came to bat. Bat is a mammal which is known to carry many viruses, but most of the time these viruses never impact and affect these bats, and therefore most of the virology studies are being carried on bats. But bats never share. Unfortunately, it is being conveyed across the world that bat is a culprit, bat is a villain. No, my dear, bat is not a villain. Bat is not sharing its virus to anybody else. But how it happened? A pangolin, it went to pangolin, modified there, and then from pangolin, it jumped to human being from the wet market of Wuhan. You must be knowing wet market where they sell animal, eat, kill them and eat. And from there, it finally came to human beings. This is the theory. But still, I believe that when people have started shouting at China that you are the culprit, you are the one who has created this problem, and therefore scientists from China probably came out with this wonderful paper suggesting that it is not us, it is the market. We have not designed and developed this virus in the lab, but this came from the market. Still, we need to see that how much time it will take to understand. So, although science has not settled on the precise origin of new virus, some experts hope that the pandemic will motivate efforts to address the relationship between drivers of biodiversity loss and human health, particularly the way land use change, ecosystem degradation, and other drivers are believed to increase the risk of new zoonotic diseases spilling over into human. This spilling over term becoming very, very important, and we need to understand the forest or ecosystem we are looking at. If they are simplified, then these viruses are tend to spill over into humans, and you'll be facing high risk. How it happens? When you look at this graphic which I got from United Nations Environmental Program, when you see what are the factors, how disease transmits from animals to humans. First, it started with deforestation. When you start with deforestation, then you intensify agriculture and livestock production, and you have illegal trade in wildlife, and finally you use a lot of medicine, and there are a lot of antimicrobial resistance happen in your body, and finally climate change accelerate all this process, and this disease, the zoonotic started, creating problems as a pandemic in the world, what you see today. So the new question arises, which I'd like to add, that's very important, that recently the UNEP, what do you call, head of the United Nations Environmental Program, Anderson, Inger Anderson suggested that the wild must be kept wild. Mind it, the wild must be kept wild. Why? Because it is time to restore our forest, stop deforestation, invest in management of protected areas, and proper markets for deforestation product. It is very important to understand that the concept of empty forest comes here. Empty forest, people may laugh at me that what do you mean by empty forest? We must not let a forest full of trees fool us into believing that all is well. No, all is not well if there is no fauna. And there is not a term I would like to introduce, defaunation. We kept talking about deforestation, but when you look at the term defaunation, it's very interesting to understand that not only deforestation, but NTFP, massive NTFP collection across the country, across the globe, creates such problem that many animals are shifting or dying or not breeding. I personally studied in Puno Wildlife Sanctuary in Madhya Pradesh, which is proposed second home for Asiatic lion. You must be knowing since long time I'm fighting to see that how Asiatic lion should get second home, but I don't know how much time it will take. So this is indirect way of defaunation, but there are direct way of defaunation also, where commercial hunting taking place different part of the country. But in our country, we are lucky to have very serious Wildlife Protection Act, which won't allow such activities in our country. So therefore, it is very important to understand that without animals, are many of the forests are living dead. Mind it, I'm using term living dead. The moment you will make a forest living dead, the human beings are tend to go closer to the viruses, and these viruses will spill over from wild to human beings. So an empty forest is a doomed forest. It's a simple ecosystem. So we must need to understand that we should not look at the green cover only, but the green cover should have all those typical trophic structure, suggesting that that ecosystem is functioning well. So when you look at urban center where ecosystems encroachment and simplification are rampant. For example, in Delhi, where you see there are two land supporting landscape, which I further discuss with you. So therefore, biodiversity enrichment, enhancement or restoration is essential to reduce the possibility of a spread of zoonotic diseases along with receiving a large number of ecological services, including air and water. So what is important? Restoration is very important. How you see ecological restoration? In fact, ecological restoration can be defined simply as a what you call supporting an ecosystem which is what you call degraded, damaged, or even lost. Even you lost ecosystem. When you see Delhi floodplain, where we have lost entire ecosystem, and you need to create entirely, entirely a new ecosystem which has resembled to that historical ecosystem. So we have given a concept. Professor C.R. Babu, a legendary ecologist, who came out with the concept of biodiversity park, thinking that it can give a viable option for sustaining urban biodiversity and retaining these viruses which causes pandemic. Now I would be just sharing. When you see that we have started, we were the first to talk about biodiversity park, but when we started biodiversity park, now many states are thinking about the biodiversity park. Therefore, it becomes very important to define biodiversity park. So we published a paper defining that what is a biodiversity park. So you can see it as a designated area with an assemblage of a species in the form of biotic community belonging to the particular ecological range. And mind it, this is very, very important. This particular ecological range is very important because if you are working in floodplain, then you cannot think about Western Ghats. You should be Yamuna floodplain. If you're talking about Aravalli Hill ranges, it must be Aravalli Hill ranges which can perform the necessary ecosystem functions, including conservation, education, and recreational values of society. So today, when you see in Delhi, there are 7 biodiversity parks spread over an area of 3,000 acres, about 1,200 hectares. They are Yamuna Biodiversity Park, Kamla Nehru, Aravalli Biodiversity Park, Neela Hall, Tughlaqabad, Tilpat Bay. There are 7 biodiversity parks. So I'd be talking more about Yamuna and Aravalli Biodiversity Park. I hope you people are listening to me. My voice reaching to you?
Yes, Faiyaz, yes.
Thank you.
We are spellbound listening you.
Thank you, sir. Today, first, I would like to discuss about Yamuna, which is spread over an area of 457 acres. That is about 100 hectares. Yes, please.
Yes, please continue, sir.
So 185 hectares. When you see Yamuna Biodiversity Park, it's very unique place. Why it is uniquely placed? It is divided into 2 parts. 2 parts. One is in inactive floodplain, which is Yamuna Biodiversity Park phase 1, and other is active flood zone, that is Yamuna Biodiversity Park phase 2. Why active? Because it is very close to Yamuna River, which receives flood every year, almost every year, and both the parts are connected with man-made, human-made ecological corridor. So initially, when we got this piece of land, well, I'm trying to stress upon that when we talk about sustainability, when we talk about fighting this pandemic, when we talk about looking at the creating climate resilient ecosystem, then we need to restore the soil. And this tool of ecological restoration gives you a strong tool to fight with all odds. So when we got this piece of land, it was generally flat, and phase 1 was inactive floodplain due to Jagatpur embankment, and some of the areas were subjected to seasonal flooding, this soil was highly saline, and alkaline soil and saline water was two big issue. And initially we had all solved the bushes when you see Suda, Fruticosa, Crassa, Heliotropium, etc., where the plants are coming up there. So initially when we got this piece of land, and we asked to present our case before then Honorable LG, that how you will go forward, what is your perception? So when we visited the site, there was nothing on the site. So we made computer simulation, and then we went with Professor C.R. Babu Saab, and we made presentation before LG through computer simulation, saying that we'll create 3-story forest, will restore wetland, lot of herbivore will come, followed by carnivore. These wetland will bring a lot of birds from Europe, Siberia, and China. In fact, most of the bureaucrats sitting there were started smiling and laughing at us. They thought that we are trying to make them fool, because a place everybody was known about this place. It was very common place, so everybody was aware of that place. That place is highly unproductive landscape with a barren area, nothing can grow there, and we are trying to convince them that will bring what you call heaven on it. So therefore, they said, no, 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 it is not possible. You cannot do it. But Honorable LG intervened, and we said, no, no. When they are saying you give it to them, so they agreed that we'll give you for 3 years. But we didn't agree for 3 years. We said it's a program nobody has done so far. First time we'll try. Even I am not convinced. We are not convinced that what we'll achieve. So we need gestation period of 10 years. If you are ready to give us for 10 years, you are welcome. So finally, they said no initially, but ultimately Honorable LG intervened. Then LG, Kapoor Saab, and finally we got this project. When we reached to the side, quickly in a corner, we started thinking that let's start plantation and try to understand that how plants actually operates and effectively act on this soil. You will surprised to know we started plantation with 200-300 saplings on the ground belonging to Yamuna River basin. But it came to our surprise that in 10 days it was 100% mortality. 100% mortality. We were shivering because we spoke very high before Honorable. At that time, Professor C.R. Babu Saab was Vice Chancellor of Delhi University. We rushed to Professor Babu, sir, we have lost everything and we are very nervous. Professor Babu smiled at us and said, Faiyaz, go and see. Talk to soil. Look at the soil. Understand the soil. Then we came and we did soil profile and found that pH was very, very high. At some places, it was 9.8. Why I'm addressing that, the miracle which we thought that COVID has brought for environment and everything got clean, it's a very temporary in nature. So until unless you achieve something like Biodiversity Park, these what you call changes cannot be permanent. Therefore, I am arguing this case before you people. So when these plants die, then we decided that we must do something, some changes, ecological changes in landscape to sustain some of the forest community. So we thought of raising the land. For raising the land, we have requirement of huge amount of soil. And if you bring soil from somewhere else, you are going to create another ecological disaster, and it will cost a lot of money. Therefore, we started looking at the soil and trying to find out what are the ecological indicators suggesting the subsoil is very high. And we found some of the grasses, beautiful grasses, and they were typha and phragmitis, suggesting that subsoil is very high. So we got that we surveyed the area. We have seen those indicators, and we have started. We looked at the various contours, because contours plays very important role in wetlands to bring many insects, fishes, and plants which stay for longer period of time, because contour decide the level of water. So therefore, we look at the various contours, dredge the area, and mud came out, utilized to create those mounds. You might have visited, you might have seen. So we have raised the land, thinking that salt may leach down, because no book was there suggesting that without utilizing any chemical, you can do any such miracle. So we landscape the area, the mud excavated from the wetland, utilized to create mounds. You will see. So this is the wetland. If you see carefully, this is the narrow shallow wetland of more than 1.5 kilometers. Initially, it was raised, mud utilized to create these mounds. If you see my cursor, and then we started with the sages. Carefully see, these are all sages, sages of cypress species. Then we brought a lot of typha phragmites. Further, you will see that what changes took place. You see, now that wetland has become an area which is home for many, many bird species. Which you see this forest, once upon a time, historically, Yamuna had such a beautiful typha phragmites forest community, which we have lost over a period of time. We have restored. You may ask, what you achieve? If you don't mind, I will just take a bottle of water. Just run. I'm sorry, sir, I'm back. So if you see, you may ask that what great you have done by creating such forests. Now you see, by restoring this beautiful tamarisk phragmites community, one of the birds which was breeding near Rajghat about 30, 40 years ago, started coming in. Not only that, many other birds, I would like to show you, many other birds like darter, egrets, you see now, they started coming in and breeding and created probably the largest heronry of Delhi. And this is the importance of restoration, if you see. If you create this sort of food web, means you are creating a complex ecosystem, means you are avoiding viruses, jumping from forest and wildlife to human beings. Mind it. So similarly, we had created a deep wetland, thinking that it will keep lot of what you call migratory birds. When you see the migratory ducks, there are many divers. Divers, they require deep water to dive into for their foraging. So again, we have taken these indicators of typha and phragmites. This is the area we again planted a lot of typha and phragmites, if you see along, and finally this wetland has become beautiful site with a lot of migratory birds from Europe, China, Siberia, and China. But luckily, you see, these wetlands are not empty wetland. When I talk about empty forest, that is very important to understand that if you have waterlogged area, NDMC and MCT says during monsoon that waterlogged area brings malaria. But when you look at this wetland, these are not simply waterlogged area, but it has a lot of life form, right from plants to insects. Means it is a functional wetland ecosystem. And we have also created one of the lily pond. Once upon a time, River Yamuna had plenty of lily. I remember seeing one of the thesis carried out under late Professor Mohan Ram, which was suggested that near Gita Colony we had a lot of lotus and water lily which we have lost over a period of time. But Yamuna Biodiversity Park gives you an hope that if you create this sort of habitat along the Yamuna, which resemble marshes, that will give you hope to bring back a lot of water lily. You please see, we have created various food chain where this is fish for plant for fish for fish, and therefore addressing the complex ecosystem. And not only that, as I said, waterlogged area brings malaria, but when we have functional wetland ecosystem, you will become you will make home for dragonflies and damselflies, and they are the natural, in fact, what you call predator of mosquitoes. They are one of the stages that is nymph, which stays in water for 6 months and feed on mosquito larvae. Similarly, we have created different foraging guild. If you see, seed for birds, fruit for birds, nectar for birds, bird for birds. But there we have predatory birds like shikra. So some of the birds started breeding, showing that this year we had a wonderful sign because most of the passerine birds breed like anything. Because I must tell you that during lockdown, that is March, was the serious breeding time for most of the passerine birds. Interestingly, if you see, birds largely depend on vocalization for what do you call it? For attracting its counterparts or mate. But if it was not locked down, then there are a lot of vehicles flying and aircraft going around, creating a lot of problem for the bird. And there are serious published paper which suggest that many birds have started changing its call and failed to attract their mate. And so there was no successful breeding. But this year we had successful breeding, and this is one of the very good examples we see. The spot-bill duck, which bred like anything, and the background has a lot of photomegaton, which gives insects and makes available. We have amphibians now, and if you see, this is deep wetland, which gives a lot of migratory birds during winter. And these are the mounds created. This is the road by which you will come from NH1 to the Yamuna Biodiversity Park. And initially, after excavation, mud was used to create these mounds. And quickly you will see we played with a lot of grass species. And this grass, if you see, this is Leptoclova fusca. For the students, it is very important to understand that in ecological restoration, grasses plays very important role. This is Leptoclova fusca. This is one of the grass which has capacity to reduce pH from 10 to 7. So we played with over 150 species of grasses because the roots of grasses, in fact, release a lot of metabolites and attracts microbes which work on it and carry out ecological processes, in fact, and that makes your system functional. So these are the mounds. Initially we played with a lot of grasses, and then we brought a lot of legumes with this because this landscape was nutrient deficient landscape. Initially we brought Leucinia nicocephala, what you call indigo vera, and many other Sisbania, many other species. It is very important to understand that when you look at Leucinia nicocephala, at many places it creates havoc. But when you look at the ecological restoration, it based on sound principle, which says you need to have a what you call site. The moment you get a site, you look at the ecological history of the site, and when you look at the ecological history of the site, then you look at the reference ecosystem you need to replicate, and then you fix priority as per availability of fund, and then you look at the midterm evaluation of your work. So in midterm evaluation, we found that Leucinia nicocephala is no more required, and it is creating problem. We have removed Leucinia nicocephala. When today you will visit Yamuna Biodiversity Park, you don't find any Leucinia nicocephala. But before going out and before elimination, this Leucinia subabule has given a lot more material and nutrient to the soil of Yamuna Biodiversity Park. So now when you go there, you will see our mounds looks like this in the visitor area. And this some of the annual grasses have started coming in. They are brachiaria and cetarias. These bracharias and cetarias are acting like a gold for us. You may ask why it is gold? Because a system where we started our own work with bringing a lot of grasses, reintroducing grasses and plants in the form of biological community. But now the annual grasses started coming in form. Therefore, it becomes very important material for us, and that we treat them as a gold because the seeds are very important, and these seeds are being eaten by a lot of granivore birds, including munias. We have 4 species of munias in our park. And this is another important point which you need to understand, because biological invasion is one of the drivers which reduce the functionality of an ecosystem, and Delhi is suffering from it. We had a place where we had plenty of Prosopis invasion. What we did, very interestingly, Professor Babu has suggested that you open the canopy, deep opening, and then you remove lantana from the ground and plant native species on the ground. And ultimately, what we got, you see now. Sorry. We got 3-story forest. Native forest belonging to Yamuna River Basin minded. You must visit and see. These are the range, some of the rangeland and grassland of India, highly productive. Many forest area in the introduction, Madam was saying many. Now you can see the many trees have reached 30, 35, 40 feet height in the forest community. And when we placed camera trap, we were surprised to see that how we got short-tailed Nazokia, the rat. Then we started getting Indian hare. Then we had wild pig. then we had nilgai, and then we had many porcupines and civets. If you see civets and porcupines. And it was for our surprise that we got jungle cat and Asiatic wild cat. So I was talking about the phase one, which is part of the natural floodplain. But when you look at the phase two, which is in upstream of Wazirabad, where we have restored a wetland of 100 acres with the objective to keep restore substantial amount of flood water. And it's very unique because it has unique benthic fauna, zoo and phytoplankton, and also crustacean, which is characteristic of unpolluted riparian wetland. You see now. Initially, we got this piece of land like this, where a lot of weeds like alternanthera, many things were there, and there was a small depression with a little bit of water. So what we did, just a moment, we dressed the area. We dressed the area basis of contours, and we desilted the wetland, and we played with slope gradient. If you see, we played with slope gradient. We allowed flood water to come in, and finally, if you see, now we have created embankment and restoration. We started restoration. First, we brought parsplum. If you could see my cursor, these grasses are parsplum. Then we had aquatic plants, which include nilambo also, and finally, if you see, this sort of forest has been created. And this is latest photograph of monsoon, where you see mosaic of wetland, which was the characteristic of river Yamuna floodplain. And because these wetlands actually act as a nursery for river, because during flood, when a lot of water comes, it brings a lot of plants, animals, insects, and fishes. And these wetlands, even though flood recedes, these wetlands keep a lot of what you call propagules, which grow over a period of time. And when next year flood comes, all these organisms goes to main river channel, and therefore these wetlands act as a what you call nursery for the river. Not only that, these wetlands also act as a kidney, because most of the sewerage historically going through this wetland. But I'm sorry, we have encroached the area. We have encroached the area. We have killed what you call marshes and wetland along the what you call river. If you please visit Sarai Kale Khan, and there was a very popular case in NGT. I need not to mention that case. When you see how we have killed many things, and which has created problem, and now sewerage is a big issue. Now river is no more a river; it is a sewer. So one fine morning, we finally received labor, because while presenting in 2002, we had suggested Honorable LG office that we'll create 3-story forest, which will bring a lot of herbivores followed by carnivores. When we got this, what do you call, animal, quickly we informed Honorable LG office, then Honorable LG office, and in an hour, I got a phone call from LG office of PS saying that Dr. Faiyaz, you need to be happy, because the statement you people have made in 2002 comes true. I said, Madam, I am happy, but your forest department is not happy. They are shouting that a human-dominated landscape, you cannot create carnivore. You will surprised to know we put camera trap, and we could understand. We studied this animal for 22 days. I have my background, I trained in wildlife. So I got this opportunity. I not only trained my staff, but I trained many students from various universities, including Delhi University, which they came and they learned that how to make PIP, how to place camera trap, how to look at the animal, how to move around when you have what you call carnivore in your landscape. So we studied the entire area. We found that animal enters from the riverside, somewhere from Kalesar or Saharanpur, and first enter in phase 2, where it killed 2 nilgai, and then it came to phase 1, utilizing this corridor. Mind it, this corridor is so active that this is the corridor which brings all animals in phase 1. And when this animal came, interestingly, if you see, when forest department got upset, we put one cage here. And first day, me and my daughter become bait for that leopard. Leopard came, but they started looking at us, thinking that what kind of animal sitting inside the cage, and ran away. Next day, we put goat, and 22nd, 23rd day, that animal was trapped and sent to Raja Park. quickly. We also located hog deer. Historically, Yamuna was known to have hog deer which we have lost, but now we have two hog deer from our park. Many birds like large crested grebe which we have lost from Yamuna, we rediscovered. Sea bolty snake, you might have heard, we rediscovered sea bolty after 70 years. Some of the bird like red-crested pochard probably stay for longer period of time in University Park. And this is the when you look, this is the yards of dragonfly, which stays in water for 6 months, 7 months, and feeds on mosquito larvae. And therefore, these dragonflies and damselflies are biological control for mosquitoes. Therefore, restoration based on natural flood pulse permits us to begin to win back the system function and provide high productivity, flood control, and many other important ecological services. Quickly, I will speak on Aravali Basti Park in 5 minutes and then we'll discuss one. When you look at the Aravali Basti Park, which is spread over an area of about 700 acres, and initially when we got, it has many morum and clay mine pits of various shape and size, and those pits had nothing but full of Prosopis juliflora, full of Prosopis juliflora. Now you see, it's very interesting to see the entire area was barren, fully barren, and highly degraded landscape. It was full of Prosopis juliflora. Initially, we started some of the plantation. And today, when you go, you will see that there are many forest communities. Woody community, when you see, it has 20 to 50 species in each community, canopy attaining 50 to 40 feet. And when you look at the what you call DBH, which is 10 to 40 centimeter. And not only that, we have created characteristic rangeland of our ranges. Please go and visit. The spread of area of 100 acres, having about 20-25 species. And this is the restoration process where we have not changed landscape at all. The landscape has been given, we store that landscape as such. The kind of canopy we have created, they are not only helping sustaining this PM 2.5 and 10, but they have become largest recharging zone for water in South Delhi, because South Delhi is suffering a lot. You look at this forest, forests are pristine forest now, and we have restored one of the Moraman pits as a water body. If you see, as I told you, that it has become one of the very important recharging zone. And look at the characteristic of this recharging zone. The moment you raise moisture of the area, the characteristic grasses will start increasing. If you see, the bushland will come around. This was area before we started barren, full of Prosopis juliflora. Now, if you see, this is beautiful grassland. You see, this is beautiful grassland now. Similarly, when you see the Moram mine slopes, how we have restored this slope slowly by adding bit by bit. And some of the beautiful forest community like Statulia, you might have heard Statulia urens. Historically, Delhi has the Statulia urens, which we have lost. We have Raitia, but we do not have Holorhina, which we have lost, but now we brought back Raitia Holorhina forest community. Enogesis species, which is well known. In a small corner of Delhi, you will find enogesis, but in large part of Delhi, which covers about 7,777 hectares. For your information, I must tell you, Delhi has two serious life supporting landscapes which are suffering. Yamuna suffering, Aravali suffering. Yamuna suffering because we are putting a lot of sewerage inside, and we have lost all those water bodies and marshes all along the river Yamuna. But Aravali suffering because it is full of woody species, that is Prosopis juliflora. And that Prosopis juliflora is not only creating problem for the groundwater, but they are not allowing local community, forest community to grow. Because when you look at the leaves of Prosopis juliflora, they dry very quickly. They quickly dry, burn. They never convert into humus. When you look at their pods, they are so thick, they don't require any support, and they grow their own. When you look at the roots emits chemical and not allowing other native species to grow. and they anchored. They went around entire landscape and killed the native forest. And therefore, the characteristic Arabic forest in Delhi, which we have lost, which you want to see, please visit Biodiversity Park to see. Not only that, we have a lot of, as I told you initially, that we had a lot of moram mine pits. So some of the pits we have converted to what you call orchidarium, and that is first of its kind in Delhi. In such a dry, arid region, you cannot expect orchid, but we have orchid in Arabi. Please go and visit. The moment you enter in that pit, you will feel that there is a temperature which goes down up to 3 degrees to 4 degrees Celsius. These are some of the orchids which are flowered. Similarly, we have created a small area in the name of fernery. For the student, I must share, where you see that how soil genesis takes place in the wild, especially in Aravalli Hill ranges. These are the fern which anchor the rocks, and their roots breaks these rocks in a small pieces, and ultimately genesis of soil takes place, and many species which conquer the soil comes back on the soil, and then you create forest communities. And when you see the animal of Aravalli, we have breeding population of jackal, we have Indian hare, we have porcupine, and some of these species like black eagle reappeared after many years. We had pitta which reappeared after many years, and probably Aravalli Biodiversity Park is the only site where Eurasian eagle owl breeds. What do you mean? Why I'm talking all this? You may be asking that why you are talking all this. I am talking all this because these components of an ecosystem makes an ecosystem functional. And when you have functional ecosystem, you create complex, what you call, trophic structure. And when your ecosystem is complex, your viruses tend to get diluted. They will never jump, or if they will jump, their impact could be reduced drastically. And therefore, these individual species create serious food web, which add to trophic structure of an ecosystem, which ultimately creates a functional ecosystem. Not only that, is very important to raise this issue, and your university also keep visiting. Thus, our park has become very important site, which gives training in an open air laboratory where a student can interact, where researcher can interact, where forest officers come and interact. Nowadays, IS officer training, they come and interact. Municipal corporation, they come and interact. And you will surprised to know, last year from July to November, we have received about 0.25 million school students. Mind it, 0.25 million school students from Delhi government schools. So if you see, this is one of the very important societal value of the park, which receives a lot of visitors, especially, the student. I'd like to add, actually, another important part which Biodiversity Parks plays, they are what you call convincing regulatory agency. That is very important role of academia. Well, mind it, academia does not necessarily mean don't mind it, because I work with animals, so I behave like an animal. Actually, academia do not necessarily mean that we sit within the four wall of room and we tend to publish only paper. Publishing paper is very important. And since it is for teacher, I want to point it out very clearly that 10 papers and net, I become assistant professor. 20 papers, I become associate professor. 1 PhD and 100 papers, I become professor. What is next? Tomorrow, if we produce 5 students who can become practitioner, who can become practicing restoration ecologists, then probably convincingly we did something for the society. I would like to add that we tried convincing regulatory and judiciary. You will surprise to know, for anything and everything from the country, we tried convincing judiciary, and most of the cases related to environment and wildlife comes to us, being referred to us by honorable judiciary, whether it is High Court of Delhi or High Court of Tamil Nadu. If it is related to weed removal, that comes to us. If it is related to Yamuna, Honorable NGT asked us to do. And if you remember, recently we have done one big task where we utilize constructed wetland and what do you call clean STP water without utilizing any electricity. And that model becomes so operational that now, Honorable NGT, we have already given various models for various section where there is a space, different model, where there is no space, in situ model we have given to regulatory agency like Central Pollution Control Board, and Central Pollution Control Board has already submitted it to Honorable NGT, and soon one order will be passed. NGT has already given 3 to 4 orders saying that if you want to convincingly protect your river, especially river Yamuna, Ganga, Kali, Krishni, they have written these names. NGT has given these names. Then please replicate Yamuna Biodiversity Park along the river bank. That is the only answer to protect it. So therefore, these parks are convincing regulatory and judiciary agency. That is one of the very important role of academia. That until unless policymaker get convinced from you, until as you show something that can for convincing policymakers, probably convincing them would become very, very difficult. And we are very happy that whatever we have done under the what do you call guidance of Professor C.R. Babu, that is convincing judiciary and regulatory agency. For your information, the former environment minister, who is no more, Shri Dave, has written related to every state government that please establish biodiversity park in your state capital and every district. And that was big achievement. And now about 27 districts of Uttar Pradesh are ready to, that is Ganga district, where Ganga flows. So they are ready to establish biodiversity park. And there are about 100 crores has been kept in Chhattisgarh. We have already given training for DPR, and they are going to come out with many, many biodiversity parks. So when you look at the biodiversity profile of all the parks, I hope you are seeing this from Yamuna Park to all this park, how we have started with baseline data of 90 terrestrial plants and how we have reached about 900 Yamuna. Similarly, all other what you call park will tell you because Yamuna we started in 2002, Aram we started in 2005, Neela Hall we started in 2016, Tilpat Valley we started in 2015, Kamla in 2015. Similarly, South Delhi Biodiversity Park we started just recently, 1 year old South Delhi Biodiversity Park, where we are trying to see that how we can manage, those sewerage coming to Yamuna through constructed wetland, and if we get successfully done, I promise you that in 2 to 3 years that will be ready to become Ramsar site. Sometime visit South Delhi Biodiversity Park that is behind Maharani Bagh. So to make aware the public across the world, Delhi approach for the preservation of natural heritage through the establishment of biodiversity park that have become nature reserve of Delhi, and the successful model for urban resilience, you must be seeing environmental, urban resilience and environmental sustainability, and that's very important part to see and understand. And the money we spend must be seen as an investment. I remember once I was delivering talk in IUCN, and then Secretary Water Resource Government of India was there, and he has asked, Faiyaz, how you generate fund? How much money you generate? I said, sir, I generate billions of rupees. How you generate? I said, we generate oxygen and we generate water. And please don't raise this voice, because if you, raise money by charging 10 rupees from IP University visit, you are not going to generate any money. Then he said, Faiyaz, I'm not going to ask you this question further. So biodiversity is a life, it is insurance of life. We must see and understand. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Faiyaz, for your wonderful speech. Your interest and enthusiasm to discuss about biodiversity and ecosystem restoration is really commendable and appreciable. Your lecture complemented our topic of current session today, healing of earth and ecosystem, upgradation during COVID lockdown. I'm so sorry because we are running short of time, so we can just take only 1 or 2 short questions. I can see in the question and answer box, there is one question Dr. Ashwani Sharma is asking. Are all top predators can be considered as keystone species?
Oh, very, very good question. If you see top predators, when you see top predators in India, especially tigers and lions are being seen as a top predator. And certainly they are keystone species in their respective space. And that is when you look at India, quickly I'll tell you that India is a country where a specific conservation is top. So if tiger is there, all conservation strategies were adopted to work around tiger. But it is not that tiger alone survives. Why tiger becomes keystone species? Because you protect tiger, you protect grassland, you protect herbivore, you protect water. So when you protect all these things, you protect even insects. So therefore, most of the carnivore, especially tiger and lions, are being seen as a
Uh, um, um, Hello, Dr. Anshu.
yes,
Hello, Dr.
Yes,
Anshu.
yes, ma'am. Please, you can ask.
Uh, since this is a very good question, I would like
Yes,
to,
ma'am, please ask.
I would like to tell Faiyaz, because Faiyaz was not there when or maybe he was there when the inauguration of Biodiversity Park happened.
Rita
You
madam.
won't believe, yeah, and Dr. Faiyaz, Vijay, Vijay Kapoor is
Yes, madam.
of a site
And you brought cycles, madam. I know that.
which went from the IP University. That's
Yes,
what
yes,
I want to tell.
yes. I know.
And many of our students have worked on the grasses of the Yamuna Biodiversity Park. So it's very nice to hear your passionate talk. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Faiyaz.
Question,
People are very much appreciating you. Yes, ma'am, please ask.
just one. I would really like just one small question. You mentioned that Lucina leucocephala was removed from the site. What was the reason why it was removed? I couldn't understand. Was it acting as some invader species or what?
No,
Because
madam.
it is known to add some nutrients, particularly like nitrogen, etc. These are being added to the soil by this particular species.
We were not adding nutrient only, but we were doing ecological restoration, madam. Ecological restoration based on very scientific principles. We suggest that you go for midterm evaluation. If you find that the process you adopted going in right direction, all right. Otherwise, you alter it. And how you alter? If you see a species is behaving differently, not useful for your site, you eliminate it.
Okay.
So we wanted to get nutrient. We get enough nutrient from the Leucinia, and we removed it because when a species is started overpowering your own forest community, does it?
Okay, that was the reason, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
It is an invader now. It is considered as an invader.
Last 30 seconds, I'd like to add something because Sumit was very passionate asking me about adding data. I think one very interesting observation of lockdown in Yamuna State Park that one of the what you call butterfly species that is pioneer, which I saw that appeared in thousands, and one very important host species that is Caparis ciparia or his or ulta kanta, you must be knowing that is the host plant. And when I saw that one single branch had thousands of caterpillars and many pupa, and those pupa in earlier stage, which I observed, are so active. Usually, pupa are not active; they are dead. But I saw that the moment caterpillar walks, the pupa starts moving, and that is one of the great stuff because what I observed that when you have no vehicle on the road, the heavy metal becomes very low in the atmosphere, and therefore the nectar bearing plant started producing large amount of nectar. So a lot of nectar is available for the butterfly. Not only that, I have seen that when sulfur dioxide goes down, butterflies number started increasing. And when you have less haze, mind it, no fog, no black sky, then what happens? It is very interesting to see that the caterpillar, especially the caterpillar, they don't die. And pupation is still never get elongated. Therefore, number of butterflies comes out in large number all around. That is one of the observation I want.
Pioneer butterfly is also sighted during the last 15-20 days in Dwarka region. So pioneer is like this year is a hit in Delhi.
Yes.
कुछ तो गड़बड़ हुई है, अच्छी खासी चलते हैं
Yes.
क्योंकि
Any
यहाँ
more
पे नेट तो
questions?
पूरा दिखा रहा है.
Yes, please.
So thank you very much, Faiyaz sir, for
Yes.
giving time and presenting your work with passion and heart. And all of them are like all of the participants and the panelists are appreciating your work. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks.
Most welcome. Most welcome.
Ansu ma'am. Okay, Faiyaz sir, you can leave or you can be here in
Okay.
panelist.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Dr. Ansu, are you here? So second lecture in the series of or FDP in today's session is from Dr. Apurva Ratan Ghosh, and Dr. Ghosh is already there in the panelist, and I think convener of this session, Dr. Ansu Gupta, his network might have some issue, so we can request Dr. Apurva Ghosh to start his session. Please.
Okay.
I have already given you power to present your screen. So it's like there is one circle on your name. So from the left third, if you want to present your presentation, there is a share content.
Actually, I have mentioned that I have no presentation.
Okay, sir.
I have already mentioned.
Okay, sir. We are able to. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Sir, sorry, sir, I missed the connection between.
Okay.
I will just introduce you.
Okay.
Today we have with us an eminent academician, researcher, and administrator, Professor Apurva Ratan Ghosh, who is from Department of Environmental Sciences, the University of Burdwan, West Bengal. He has served as a director of UGC Academic Staff College, University of Burdwan, West Bengal. Professor Ghosh has more than 20 years of research experience, and he has supervised several doctoral theses and dissertations in different areas of environment. He has carried out several consultancy assignments with various organizations. He is also editorial member of various peer-reviewed journals and reviewer of several international and national journals. He has published many research papers as well as authored many books and books chapters. He is also a member of several academic associations and societies. With these words, I would like to invite Professor Apurva Ratan Ghosh to enlighten us with his speech. Professor Ghosh, please.
Okay. So thank you. First of all, I want to convey my best regards to the Professor Gupta sir and all the members associated with this organization for conducting this type of seminar in India, and dear participants also, those who are my colleagues of a different institute. I must share with them that it is the very nice opportunity to even to speak after a long time at the 5:20 like that at that time. Now let's see that we must know. I will start with my lecture with the deliberation of his personality, that is evolutionary biologist. The name was John Michel Claverie. In the years, he told in his speech that during the 2 to 3 decades, or even then after, the whole world will face so many epidemics and pandemics. He told it as I know, even at least so many decades before. But what we have seen that this time the COVID-19 was appeared as a pandemic. But this is not the first in the story of world, in the history of the pathogenic diseases so far. Because if we consider the first disease which was appeared in this earth, it was 426 to 440 BC. That is the typhoid which came to the Spartans. Now after that, you have seen another pandemics in the year 1918. Just 1819, after that 100 years, 2019, you have faced this. You can remember the statement of this great scientist, John Michel Claverie, that during this 18th or 19th century or onwards, whole world will face several different types of epidemics of pandemics. What is the reason behind it? The most probable reason behind it is the climate change. All you know, this year, the Earth Day Network, they have celebrated 50 years of this because, the National Earth Day was celebrated first in 1970 on 22nd April. And this year is the 50th anniversary of it. And where they have made the theme, which is called climate action. And if you see in the 48th anniversary of the World Environment Day, after 1972, this year in the 2020, they have called another theme, which is called biodiversity. A lecture that you have heard a little back ago by Professor Faiyaz. It's a nice, very interesting, very enthusiastic. And you have seen the scientists are talking about that the climate change and biodiversity is the two sides of the same coin. So the climate change, which is caused due to the greenhouse gases, since 1880 to 1980, within this 100 years, the temperature of the earth rises 0.6 degrees centigrade. If you consider about the average increase or average temperature of the earth is 15 plus minus 0.5 degrees centigrade. So if it is rise, it is expected that when we are coming this year, it may be 16.5 degrees centigrade. You know that the temperature which rises on the surface, on the water body, if it is here in the Arctic region, it is increasing 3 times more. So as a result of that, a few days before, you have seen if the Greenland ice melts, then it can raise the water level of the ocean 7 meters. So far, the record concerned during the interglacial age of 125,000 years ago, since then to today, the sea level raised up to 10 meters. All that is due to this climate action. What about the microbes? What is the role of the climate action and the microbes? In 2019, in Nature publication, at least 9 scientists from 30 different countries, they have predicted that the microbes will play a very important role in the climate change. All you are concerned about the greenhouse gases, you are concerned about the deforestation, you are concerned about the waste disposal, you are considered the waste deposition, discharge, etc., for the climatic action or for the disposal or for the global climate change. But you have never thought about the role of the microbes in the climate action. So the climate, which is imposing the effect on microbes, and it is vice versa. The microbes are also impart the effect on the climate action or on the climate change. How? You see that if I consider how many microbes are there in this world today, it's a very logic and estimation, statistical estimation, that 10 to the power 30 numbers of microbes there are simply in the ocean. And if you add one by one, then it will cross the 60 galaxies. And what is the weight of that? The weight of that microbes simply 10 to the power 30 in numbers. That will be 1,000 more the total human weight, as well as it will be 775 million blue whale that you call the largest whale mammal, which is equivalent to that weight. Can you imagine what is the number of the microbes and what is the importance of the microbes in this global climate change? Now, these microbes, from where they are coming? It is told by the scientists, even the NASA, they told that if you consider the human evolution, that is Australopithecus, that is the Neanderthal man on Denisovan, they appeared in the Siberia, and the microbes of their body is present in the permafrost. And if this ice melts from this permafrost, the microbes will come up and they can be restrained, because that several times there is a mutation over these microbes. So these microbes will cause severe epidemic as well as pandemic all over the world. I will tell you a short story. As you know, in the year 2016, anthrax is a germ. All you know that so far WHO listed 1,415 diseases. Out of them, 61 diseases is zoonotic. And the 70% of this is coming from animal to man. So it is very important to note that the story which I want to get you, in the year 2016, sometimes in August, a small remote village in the peninsula of Siberia, which is named as Yamuna, a boy of 12 years old and 20% affected by anthrax. And when they have searching the root cause of this disease, they have seen that 75 years ago, a reindeer which was buried in the permafrost or beneath the ice, it spreaded during hot summer. And the infection spread through the water, soil, and air. As a result of that, this fellow, that is the 12 years old boy, was affected. And now you see, if this one reindeer can affect this number of people here, which is buried under this ice, what will be the next terminology of the disease which can spread or cause pandemic? If I consider in the 20th century that 1 lakh reindeer was affected by the anthrax and their body simply buried into the graves of this ice. Several times they have taken the 7,000 places for buried these bodies. Now, when this number of pathogens will come up after melting of this ice, what will be the fate of that country, those who are nearest this region. So the first thing which we want to mention, that the small microbes, which is invisible but innumerable in number, may cause epidemic and pandemic. In case of ocean, if you consider that this blue-green algae, that is the cyanobacteria, is the main source of photosynthetic product, and the krills are dependent on that, and there are so many birds are dependent on it, and the whales are dependent on that krill. So there is a chain. And if you think about it, that the rise in temperature in the ocean, as well as eutrophication in the ocean, that is the additional nutrient which is coming from the surface into the ocean, there will be a rise in the acidity. So if the acidity increases, that means usually the acidity which comes 0.01 in rate, but it will be increased from 0.3 to 0.4. As a result of that, you see that the number of corals will bleached, as you have seen in different occasions when this coral bleaching was occurred. So these microbes, in one hand, which is causing the excess nutrient into the ocean, as a result of that, you see the oceanic atmosphere, which is coming from the diversity in its nature, that is starting from -2 degrees centigrade to 100 degrees centigrade. That is the hydrothermal region vent, which is called. So this number of species in the ocean will be affected. This is the disease, this is the events which can occur due to this climate change. And on the other hand, you see that during 1990s, some of the scientists, exactly the virologists, they have isolated the virus from the fossils. The fossils, which was of at least they are talking about 70,000 years ago. And they have isolated this DNA. As you know, if the temperature rises, the different parts of the world, that means the spreading of the disease will be occurred. And you have seen that these changes in the climate, may cause the melting of the ice in the ocean. So the oceanic temperature will rise and the acidification will be there, and this oceanic algae, which is making the food chain, that will be disrupted. And the presence of these microbes in the ocean, it is told that by another scientist, Cavicoccioli, he told that the day will come when the ocean organisms will be die and perish. It is the reason behind it. That the same thing, if it has happened in the Antarctica, where there are the ice or this permafrost of millions of years old, and you can see that these millions of years of old microbes are also staying there. These microbes, those who are staying there, they are very comfortable. Yes, they are very comfortable. And these microbes will come up after that, and it will cause the different degrees of epidemics and endemics. And the scientist, like he is also the head of the Department of Geology, he is told that the Kistner, scientist Kistner, sometimes he has isolated the microbes of 7,25,000 years ago. The microbes which are lying inside this permafrost, which is the age of 7,25,000 years, 25,000. And they have rejuvenated this bacteria, this virus, into the live condition. But it is told that they are not causing the serious pandemics or epidemics of the human being. As a result of that, you can say that we are rather safe of this. But in my previous speaker has mentioned the concept of the zoonotic disease. The disease, but you see that the cohesion between the bacteria and virus and the human being is not the story of this today. It is the story of very many years ago, as I have mentioned. What happened? Human being, they have discovered the drugs, preventive medicine, and vaccine. And ultimately, we have saved the humankind from the infection of this epidemic or pandemics, from the disease. Once again, the disease came up. Then again, we have got the preventive medicine. We are also we have to wait for that, because you know that the discovery of the vaccine is not the story of the day. Sometimes you know that we have taken the different ages to discovery of the vaccine in different times. Suppose I can say that is the rubella or the Spanish flu, which has taken more than 300 years. Then you know that we have got the vaccine of the Ebola in 2019 only. We have not even got the vaccine of the HIV virus. We have got some preventive medicine. So COVID-19, whatever it is, the virus, we have to wait for that. This changes which is occurred due to the corona in the climate, it is told by so many people. But obviously, it is the temporary. As and when this process, the human activity or the anthropogenic activity will come up, will be started again, and then it will also, the temperature, the climatic action will be changed. When it was told that in Delhi, those who are staying in Delhi, their index was 153. Night, the air pollutant index is 50 only, 90 only. In Mumbai, it was 161. It was 93 only. So the changes in this context of the air pollution, which is causing the changes in the climate change, is also responsible for that, the air pollutant. The story of this Wuhan in the Hubei province, the same thing what happened. It was happened due to excessive urbanization and industrialization, which causes a drastic change in their environment, resulting into so many respiratory diseases of the human being, particularly the old age people. Once upon a time, Krugman told that when you are observing that 1/4 of the total production in the China, as well as in the history, you know, the China is the right now, China is the second energy user in the world, and America is the first one. So the 1/4 production, where you are getting the 1/4 production, either in agriculture or in industry, it will bring forth another epidemic next time. So it was happened in the Wuhan, as you know, in 2018. Our Prime Minister also see the Wuhan. Why? Because it is a model of development. But in the year 2018, the Krugman told, yes, he is the Nobel laureate. He told that development in this respect will bring forth another epidemics just due for this. But the reason is the change in the climate change action. The climatic condition is dependent on so many factors. As you know, that these factors, most of them are greenhouse gases. We have considered here, as per records of the study by the 9 scientists of 30 countries, those who have published in their Nature, that microbes are also responsible for changing the global climate action. You see that this year, in the as I told you earlier, that it is the climate action, which is Earth Day, when they are considering the 50th anniversary of it. Similarly, the World Environment Day, they are also going for the biodiversity. Now, question is that the number of animals which is responsible for causing these diseases. Why? Why? Sometimes it happens, it is causing direct animal to man, or sometimes it happens direct animal to another animal, then it is man. As we have seen that the story of the one, it may be starting from back to directly to the man, or it may be from starting to back to pangolin to man. Okay, I'm not going in details about it, but I must mention one thing, that since Homo sapiens, in the age of Homo sapiens, where the hunting and gathering was the main motto of the human, at that time it was man. The Homo sapiens, it was dependent on the gathering and hunting. I must say that human beings are the most dominating species all over the world. And that came from the nature of this man of hunting. Because since then, this nature of hunting give him the potential to dominate over the animals. You know, today we are taking at least 200 million animal per day. So we are destroying or killing these 200 million animal per day. So this either the wild animal or they are the farm meat on whom we are dependent. As much as urbanization was occurred, as much as industrialization is occurred, this consumption of meat increased. If you think that within 50 years of the human population, which become doubled, the production of this farm meat as well as this wild meat, which we sometimes call bush meat, it was also increased 3 times within 50 years of the human population. If it is doubled, the human being tried the bush meat 3 times. Why? Because we require the protein. Why? Because it gives us more energy as well. So, for serving this animal or sacrifice of this animal, the human being is mitigating its or grasping this number of bush meat for it. You know that if the greenhouse gases emits at least 10 to 12% from the agricultural sector, and we know that the greenhouse gases, this is coming from this only farm meat production industry, which is more than 3 times of this agriculture. So the greenhouse gases emission, which is resulting into climate action, is indirectly depending on this farmland. The farmland, which is also responsible for emission of this methane, because the methane emitting bacteria, which are present inside the grass root, they will come up as and when the pasture land was infested by these farm animals. So in one hand, it is increasing the greenhouse gases. In another hand, the pasture land is also increasing the carbon dioxide or other active greenhouse gases for changing the global climate. I will tell you that the measurement of this climate, I am basically interested about this. First part of my lecture is on it. And the second one I will consider, that is the, as you know, which is called carbon footprint. because you know the water footprint is there, ecological footprint you have heard, and the carbon footprint you have got another way. Once upon a time, it was the carbon dioxide trading. Earlier, it was sulfur dioxide trading. And the carbon dioxide trading or carbon trading, it came from the word sulfur trading. Because once upon a time, when the sulfur dioxide was emitted in huge quantities, and the people are concerned about this sulfur dioxide, so to mitigate this sulfur dioxide concentration, they have taken that will be added as a sulfur dioxide trading. Now from there, we have adopted this name, which is called carbon dioxide trading or carbon trading. What we call it? Carbon footprint. This is the terminology which was given by scientists Wright and Kemp, and as well as the Williams. And the person who is very much concerned with this, that is the Wackernagel, because he has been able to measure this ecological footprint also. Now, what is carbon footprint? Carbon footprint is the index of the climate change. How much amount of carbon dioxide is emitted? How much amount of greenhouse gases are emitted from the day-to-day work? Suppose starting from the computer that you have adding, the using the mobile phone that you are using, how much amount of carbon dioxide is liberated by using one message only by your mobile phone, Android mobile phone, to your another friend? This is the question. So starting from using this mobile phone up to the food that you are using for your sustenance is linked with this emission of carbon dioxide, resulting into global change or global atmospheric change. Now I'll tell you, this carbon footprint is a measurement of how much amount of carbon dioxide you are producing. The amount of carbon dioxide, that means the amount of carbon dioxide, that means 1 ton equivalent carbon dioxide. 1 ton equivalent carbon dioxide, 1 ton equivalent carbon dioxide is equal to carbon footprint. So from the activity of the humankind, how much amount of carbon dioxide is produced in terms of ton, that should be 1 carbon footprint. So if you consider your mobile, that you are sending one message from your friend to if it requires 30 seconds, then you are producing 0.1 gram of carbon dioxide. If you are using your laptop for getting or writing just one mail, overall you are producing 0.7 gram of carbon dioxide. So you can imagine these 6 billion people, and if there are only 2.5 trillion of message, then you will produce 32,000 tons of carbon. And this carbon footprint will be 32,000, which is even only 1% of the total carbon footprint so far in the world. Now you can imagine how much petrol you are using, how much LPG gas you are using per day or per month. What is the unit cost of what is the total unit of your own house? You can simply, as you know, 1 kilowatt hour is equal to 1 unit, it is told. So how much amount of kilowatt hour of this one you are using? So that should be converted into carbon footprint. I will give you one message, that simply from your own house, you can measure this amount of carbon dioxide that is liberated, or the amount of carbon footprint from your home itself by individual person. You can calculate it. I will give you this message, because if you consider, you see that starting from electricity that you are using, and you know that your electric bill is coming after 3 months, or sometimes in some area it is 1 month. So you only calculate how much amount is what is the total unit that you have consumed from previous year, from previous month to this month. And from that, 1 unit is equal to 1 kilowatt hour of electricity. So if there are 5 people, 4 people, 6 people, and for 30 days, how much amount of electricity you have used. So you consider how much amount of electricity you will use for 12 months. Then you divide by the number of person concerned in your house. So you will get unit of carbon dioxide which is produced. How? You see that 1 unit of this electricity will produce 0.85 kg of carbon dioxide. So in the year conversion, in the year, you can write the total unit into 0.86 is equal to, suppose, x kg of carbon dioxide. Now you get it for year. So you can divide it by the number of the person concerned, and you will get the total amount of carbon dioxide that you have liberated. Now come to the petrol, the amount of petrol that you have used. Suppose you have got your own car or bike, whatever it is, you can measure how much amount of petrol you have used in terms of liter. So in terms of liter, you simply multiply this amount that it is in liter into 2.296. Actually, these are called index. It is index constant. It is prepared by carbon dioxide emission factor database version, CE, that means Central Electricity Authority. They have prepared it, and there it is now available in the website. So per petrol into 2.296 is equal to per kg of carbon dioxide. So if you are going by your own bike, that is the rate of consumption as well as carbon dioxide emission. India is the third largest user of the petroleum oil. And during this COVID period, 70% of the total uses was reduced, where in other country it is 20 to 35%. And this now a huge amount of petrol right now, it is not being used by India. And for your information, India is the third largest user of petroleum oil. Now come to the diesel. Because why I am considering diesel? Some of you may come from by public bus. So how much kilometer you are crossing to come per day, or how much kilometer you are using to cross over your place of work to your home, or whatever it is, you only, here it is told that for every 12 kilometer, you will produce 1 kg, that will produce 1 kg of carbon dioxide. So if I divide the number of bus passengers, I will get how much amount of carbon dioxide I have produced. Now for the diesel, the number of diesel in liter is into 2.653. This is the emission index, and it is equal to kg of carbon dioxide that you will produce. Now come to the LPG gases. Suppose you know that in the LPG gases, there are 14 kg of gas we are using, that is the liquefied petroleum gas, and what are the number of your family members, and the number of requirement of the LPG cylinder, you can divide simply by years, that means 12, to get how much amount per month you are using, or in total for the 12 months. And you know that if you to see what is the total kg of carbon kg of gas you have used, it will simply 1 kg into total kg of LPG gas into 2.983 index factor or emission index, you will get the total kg of carbon dioxide that is produced by your family, and you can divide in the number of your family. So if you think that you can measure the total amount of this carbon dioxide, total amount of carbon footprint in terms of ton per kg per year, you will get the result. So my friends, my dear colleagues, that this is one method by means of which the carbon footprint also can be measured. And I want to say that hopefully that Madam Angshu, should I continue, or what is your impression about this, or I will continue in other words?
So, sir, you can continue for a few more minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
Okay. Now,
because it's very interesting. It's very interesting talk.
Okay. Now you see, when I'm considering the climate action, I have told you that the biodiversity and the climate action, it is the same side, two sides of the same coin. Why? Because if you see that during this COVID-19, all the activity, as you have seen, the improvement in the climatic condition, it may be in the atmosphere, it may be in the water, it may be in the air. You know that in the somebody of your friends asked me to talk about the water footprint. Also, as it is a related one, so I will continue with this ecological footprint as well as the total carbon footprint. Water footprint. Water footprint is the total amount of water. No, so first of all, you have to understand what is ecological footprint. You see, the ecological footprint, it is one thing. First, the area in which you are staying, the total number of population, the resource that you are utilizing, and the waste you are generating for disposal. So 3 things must be considered for ecological footprint. First of all, your habitat, that means where you are staying. Second one, the resource you are using. And the third one, that the total amount of waste that you are disposed. So these 3 things will be considered for ecological footprint. And you know that the index of the ecological footprint is 1:1. That means the number of population in the world, and the requirement of the per person in this world is 1:1. This is the standard index value. But do you think that it has happened? No, because we require, as I told you a few minutes ago, that China, they are the second largest users of energy after America. You know, one American is using 25 times of a resource than in the world population. 25 times. That means the energy requirement for it is 25 times more. So they will dispose the waste as usual more. Only the consideration is that the population of European countries as well as the America, it is less. But the total requirement of the energy in terms of the third populous country in the world, India or China, they are total consumption is more. But if you consider the more per unit, it is more in America. So you see the 25 times, that means 1.30 or 1.50. That means the requirement standard is 1 and you are requiring 50% more of your own. From where you are coming, from where these resources are coming, these all resources are coming from you are getting by exporting. So a small country with a less number of population, but the total production is less, so they have to depend on the another country. As a result of that, the total requirement of the own country, if it is one and the total requirement is one, then it should not be matched, because the sufficient amount they are not getting from their own country, so they have to depend on the another country. So that is why the ecological footprint of that country is higher than our country. So this is called ecological footprint. In considering this, the amount of carbon dioxide, as I told you, in tons, it is equivalent to carbon footprint. Similarly, the amount of water you are using for production or consumption, you know, the water is used either for drinking purpose, for agriculture purpose, that is agriculture, industrial also, as well as the aesthetic use of the water. So the total use of the water by per person is called water footprint. If you require the total production of 100 kg of potato, how much water is required for its production, starting from preparation of the farmland up to harvesting, as well as it should be, as you know, sometimes it is used or processed. That is why sometimes it is called secondary footprint. The direct footprint, that means which is directly related with the production. And this is called water footprint. Okay, so now I will, what I am talking about, the yes, any other in relation to that, if you ask me, then I can answer, or I will go beyond that. Okay. Is
So
there
you
any?
can move further.
So you have seen that the total requirement of the plant, as I am talking about the climate action, because I have to consider the activity of the human being, which is related with the production of the farmland. That means at least if the agricultural sector producing 10 to 12% of the greenhouse gases, the animal protein, they are also for production of this is 3 times more. Now the number of diseases which is connected with this, of the animal bearing, or animal as taken as a host, or sometimes it is the intermediate host. So this number of diseases okay. This point must be highlighted. What is the water usage? You see that according to WHO, the 120 liter of water is required. 120 liter of water is required per day. It is WHO, but we are not getting here, as you know. So the crisis of the water, obviously, you see that the disinfectant, whatever it is called, or sometimes it is called the total number of water uses by the human being right now, due to get as a preventive measure of washing your hands and mouth, and taking bath also. So you are using obviously the huge amount of water about your around, or which is above your own requirement also. Obviously it is connected with this, at least for the point of view, the usage of water. But the disease which is causing this one, and the usage of water for prevention, you have to keep in your mind in this respect. Okay, because as you know that the footprint is only indirectly related with the production. how much amount of water you are producing, how much amount of product you are producing, and what amount of water you are using for this production to get the final shape is the footprint. Okay. So now I will come once again that these genetic diseases, which is the resultant of the this melting of the permafrost, that the different times you have seen it is used by the human being. And as I told you earlier, that this permafrost, which is melting, as a result of that, these microbes are coming, and you are relating with this genetic, means you are relating with the spreading of the disease or outbreaks through the animals. Now, the concept of this climate action and these animals, if you want to relate with the biodiversity of this one, then you must have, you have to note one thing, that this climate action, which is caused due to destruction between the ecosystem, the forests, the corridor, all are related with this. All are related with this. All are related with this climate action. So you see that in different cases, the number of animals, as I can tell you one thing, that only the bush meat which is used by the mankind, it is destroying at least different biological animals of different species. That is, sometimes it is told that in the African part, the African animals in the rural village, the main livelihood is the poaching or procurement by any means, by preying, that is the animals. And in their case, if they are not being allowed for getting this bush meat, or they are not allowed for this poaching or hunting, simply this population will die. And this bush meat are directly come to the wet market. It may be in London, it may be in Indonesia, it may be in China. And as the China is the right now, all concerned on the spotlight, one city. So we have seen that in the one city, there is also the number of animals, they are involved in this. But the poor China people, they are not getting this amount of, the bush meat. It is the luxury item. It is simply the luxury and item for the rich people. Take it from me. So the people, those who are concerned with the wet market, they are responsible only because they are making the business of millions of dollars from this trading that is called bushmeat. I can tell you this, I can give you one statistics, that simply in one market of one, that is, which is called Huanan. Here, the live birds are traded 46%, the snake 34%, the bats 23%, civet cat 20%, pangolin 19%, the soft shell turtle of 15%, and others 4%. And you know that in this wet market, that from where it is told that the infection from of this coronavirus may be spreaded all over the world. But the concern is not like that. The concern is what we are doing, the humankind is dependent on this bush meat. Why? As I told you earlier, that it is created more amount of emission of carbon dioxide. And as I told you, from this market only, there are some income in 60 million pound or 73 million dollar from it. And this is the livelihood, not only for this meat, but it is the livelihood of 14 million people, those who are dependent on this trading. Can you imagine this thing? As a meat, we are destroying at least 40,000 primates in this earth, 4 million live birds, 640,000 reptiles, and 350 million tropical fishes every year. So what is the huge loss of the biodiversity that you can imagine? And it is not the simple farm-made or farm meat. This is also bush meat, which we are getting from the wild animals. And it has been told that this meat is procured sometimes from the endangered as well as the critically endangered animals also. I will tell you one thing. Simply in Indonesia, there is a market in the northern side of it, which is known as Ulasio. In this market, every year, they are trading of 90,000 of mammals. 90,000 of mammals every year. In a market from Thailand, in every week, there are trading of 276 species of birds. And out of them, these 70,000 birds, out of this 276 species of the 70,000 of birds, the trading ratio simply in one market of Thailand. If you go to Bangkok, you see in their market, there is 36,000 of wild birds. And out of that, only 37% of their own native lands. But rest of the part, they are procuring from the other countries. So this is not only that is they are losing or they are destroying the biodiversity of their own country, but they are also responsible for getting loss of biodiversity from the other country also. In the year 1980s, you have seen that it is called, after 1980s, 35 types of diseases man being affected. And it is told, you see, I'm relating this disease with the human being or the genetic disease. I'm relating. After 1980, in this earth, there are 35 different types of infectious disease, which means that for every 8 months, you are getting one. For every 8 months, you are getting one new. It may not be in your country, but the other country are also facing this problem. Now, why it is? And it is only due to loss of this biodiversity. The wild animals, they are not getting enough food for their own. Their habitat are destroying. That you have seen in the earlier slide also, earlier speaker slides also. So sometimes it is told that in Noida, we have seen the Nilgai. In Kerala, in the Kozhikode, we have seen the seabed. In other, as you know, in Orissa, during this time, the riddle, that is the turtle, riddle turtle, which has come up, and they are, so you have seen it. And why you are observing this number of animals are coming to the human habitat? You see, in Nigeria, the chimpanzee, are now threatening. Somebody told that this COVID-19 may be infected from the chimpanzee. So what they are doing? They are simply killing the chimpanzees. No, sir, this is not coming from or coming through the chimpanzee, but the chimpanzee are coming to the human habitat when the people are locked in their house and they are observing the presence of these animals from their balcony. They may be either encouraging these people to enter into their own locality. They are observing the presence of this cheerfully, as well as sorrow, becoming sorrow. Why? Because they are not outside. The people, the animals, which is supposed to be in the outside, now they are inside. Actually, this infected or infectious virus may enter into this animal. I will tell you, a few days before, there is observed in Wuhan city, 4 animals, 2 dogs and 2 cats. They have tested the corona positive virus from there. Simultaneously, they have also seen that the monkey is also affected by this coronavirus. What means? That means they are, as an animals, suppose these are the pet animals, obviously, they are coming in contact with the patients or the people who are affected in this one city. But it is also true that this virus may also affect these wild animals also. If it happens, can you imagine? For the human being, you are discovering the preventive measures, you are discovering the vaccines. But what will happen if this pandemic spreaded or outbreaks caused due to these wild animals? What will be happen? So that this number of animals which is coming into your locality, that means they are not getting enough food in their own habitat, or they are not being able or to become comfortable in their habitat. So they are coming to their own, they are coming out of their own homeland into this human habitat. I'll tell you another, how this similar type of virus which is spreaded from this disease of pet animals. You see, I will give you this example. That in Belgium, they are importing the different mountain hawk from the Thailand. Okay? And it has been so observed there is one virus which is called paramyxovirus. It is obtained in this hawk. From where it is coming? You see, this paramyxovirus, it is usually the primary host is the poultry birds. The poultry birds, from the poultry birds, you are getting that this paramyxovirus is coming. Oh, what a nice picture it is. And this picture of infestation by this poultry birds infected this hawk. So you can imagine how much of these poultry birds consumed by the human being may cause the infestation to the human being. But you have to see all the pathogens, that means these microbes are not seriously infecting the human being also. That means the number of infectious diseases from the animals to the man is not same. As a result of that, you are not getting the infectious diseases to all the human being, if it is even coming from the other. Simply, you consider in Italy, once upon a time, the Pakistani people, they are getting in Italy, they are taking this number of birds like parrot, parakeet, lovebirds, and these birds, they are exporting from the Pakistan. It was seen that there is one virus named as monkeypox, and it is observed in America. From where it is coming? It is originating from their own native rat. But what is the source of this one? It was observed that it came from Ghana. And there is one African rodent, it came to America for trading in their pet market. So what a nice link you have seen between the spreading of the disease as well as animals, as well as the biological diversity. As a result of that, I must say that who has taken a very good step, they have stopped the wet market in one. Not only that, in some parts of the European country. As you know, the most largest industry of the animal component is used in medicine, that is in China. And they have even, and for your information, I can tell you, the recent preventive medicine, they have isolated from bear, that means bhaluk. From bear, they have, that is from the, liver. From liver, they have isolated the serum, and they have taken it as a preventive measure for COVID-19. So what happened? Their government, in one hand, stopped the wet market, stopped the animal trading, but they have given some restriction or limitation of the trading to get the beer from the wild concept to their own laboratory. But it is also be either you people are the most dignified personality in the society, you are the pivot of the society, so you people can think about it, that whether who has taken this trading business of preparing the medicine from the animal component. It is not known to anybody else, but my last part of this lecture, that you see that the thousands of or crores of money is spending for getting rid of this virus COVID-19. But it has to be keep in your mind that you have to give the space for the animal being. It is not the humankind that is the only human ecosystem. Please consider also non-human ecosystem. Thank you everybody for giving me this time for my lecture. I don't know, it's a very fast one maybe, but if you ask me any question, then I will be able, if it is my knowledge.
Sir, it was so wonderful that all the participants, including me, got lost in your talk. We are getting so much appreciation on our Telegram group that this is such a nice lecture. You have covered all the aspects of, I should say that carbon footprint, an ecological footprint, water footprint, with so much data, and even how to calculate carbon dioxide emission. We can do it now. So
yes.
The day-to-day activities.
Yes.
That's you have taught us today.
Yeah, yes.
How to, even through the email or through the gas generation, electricity. So we can.
Yes.
We should. so that we are clear. And
if you
then
require, then I can send the total calculation how to make it from your own home. I will send it.
Thank you very much, sir. That will be very, very good. Yes, sir.
Professor Apurva.
sir, बताइए sir.
NC Gupta this side. NC Gupta is this side.
Yes, I have seen him, sir. I have seen him.
So I think you delivered a very brilliant and very excellent talk.
Sir, only 2 hours I have got to prepare my lecture. Only 2 hours.
Yes. We gave you very less time because we actually planned at the last moment everything. So anyway, it was very brilliant talk. Sir, as you say, I think about the this carbon footprint, now economic activities bird over are being reduced.
Yes.
At least you see a 60 days lockdown, 63, 64 days in India, and throughout the world, at least there is a 2-month lockdown.
Yes.
So a lot of economic activities are reduced.
Yeah, I can say you, sir, the total infrastructural production from the 8 sector of the industry, it has been demolished by 6.5%. Obviously, that production must affect the total Indian economy. You have seen that it may be that the carbon dioxide emission.
Yes, sir. But on the environment point of view, when this crisis will be over, the economic production and this will be reversed again. So all these environmental benefits we are getting today will not be, I think, will not be permanent.
Yes, it is not permanent. So, that I can say.
So how long whatever the environmental benefits we have basically achieved in this reduce because of the reduced economic activities, how we can sustain these environmental benefits in future? This is the question.
Okay, you see that the question of sustainability, which is considered this year in the year 2019, as you have seen, which is talked about the sustainable development goal. And in the sustainable development goal, it was considered that the total carbon emission must not exceed 1.5. That means the total average global temperature must not exceed 16.5 degrees centigrade. So if you consider the sustainability, then you have to check, or somehow you have to make a point of a restriction for using the resources, as well as urbanization, as well as industrialization. Otherwise, the sustainability goal cannot be achieved.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question, sir. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
So,
संजय पहले रीता मैम पूछनी है एक बार उन्हें.
Okay.
Ma'am, please ask your question.
Oh, thank you very much for giving me opportunity. It is wonderful talk, Dr. Ghosh.
Yes,
thank you. Since you have been talking quite much about permafrost.
Yes.
And in the permafrost, you said that the reindeers had harbored so many viruses and
bacteria.
Anthrax bacteria. What about the woolly mammoth? Because we have got many fossils of woolly mammoths. Yes. Do you have the idea if viruses have been taken out from the woolly mammoth because they were in a deep freezer, right?
Yes.
When they were activated, is there any idea about the woolly mammoth, and have they compared it with the elephant species which are found in India and Africa with the woolly mammoth?
Madam, one thing I can give you that means you see that I have told you, starting from the Neanderthal man to Donovan, they after their infection, we have got or rejuvenate some of the virus and bacteria, though they are not infecting the other animals, but the animals in the wild condition, they are harboring huge number of microbes. The animals you are getting in wild condition, they are harboring huge number of microbes. And if you want to get the meat of that animals, obviously there is some chances. If it is not getting the privilege to in causing infection to the man. So in particular cases, I cannot give you the answer, but it is the general thinking that this virus or bacteria, which is harboring in the animal, in particularly in the wild animal, and it is not only the wild animal, the domesticated animals, those who are using the some of the, as you know, the steroids and hormones for good production, they are also harboring some bacteria as well as the virus, which may cause the infection. The one instance it was coming in the nature in the last event, that sometimes it happens in the loose motion or diarrhea, that is the cost of the infection from the chicken that was getting from the farm where they are using hormones. So this may be the
we know about the HIV also, that it is transmitted through manga meat.
yes.
That means
Yes,
talking, so you're talking about the reverse transmission, isn't it? Right
yes,
now, you mentioned about the reverse transmission.
sure.
So that can happen in the species which are living by the side of human population in cities, like
Yes.
and through, so that is that's a quite a dangerous scenario, I believe. No.
Yes,
When
this is also.
you're yeah, this is very, very. I think somebody should do research on this also. The reverse.
That I
Yes.
have given you one example in the Nigeria, the chimpanzee, those who are affected by this type of virus, which is similar to SRS, that means, as you know, severe respiratory diseases, but acute syndrome, SARS, SARS or MARS, whatever it is. But the infection which is prevailed within the chimpanzee, it is at least 76% gene sequence is same. You see, 76% gene sequence is same along with the chimpanzee virus and the SARS and MERS. So you see that this right now the disease is coming not only affecting the human being, it is also affecting the animals.
Thank you for such a nice talk.
Okay, madam.
Okay,
Thank
Sanjay,
you.
now you can ask. Okay, Sanjay.
Thank you, sir, for a wonderful lecture.
Okay.
Sir, I have one simple question, sir. During lockdown period, one way we are benefited by restricting use of our vehicles.
Yes.
The other way we have much more times increased the use of mobile phones, our internet, using our computers. So, how far we are really benefited? That is
really and in my a very recent work I have done, and I have sent it for publication in this work in this. You see, during this lockdown period, the data exchange was 9.7 trillion terabyte. 9.7 trillion terabyte. And you will be surprised to note that the geo people, they are getting their benefits 177 times. Okay. So this is their benefit. Now, what is the cost which is the environment is paying? The environment is paying the cost in terms of using this mobile phone that I have told you, by increasing the carbon footprint of the single people. You see, once upon a time, if you have get your time, either 1 hour, 2 hour, even for not more than 5 hours, you are using the mobile phone or laptop. So you can calculate for 30 seconds as usual. For sending one mail, you are producing 0.3 gram of carbon dioxide. Now, how much hour you are spending on your mobile or your laptop, so you can calculate what is the carbon footprint that will rise up. So this is the another dangerous thing that we are going to face.
Thank you, sir.
So there are some questions from the participant sides also.
Okay,
So
madam.
I'm just taking one or two.
Okay.
One is asking Mr. Fahim Ahmed, is there any sustainable solutions to the present and forthcoming pandemic with environment perspective?
Uda?
Is there any sustainable solution to the present and forthcoming pandemic with environment perspective?
You see, the environmental perspective is one thing that sometimes it is told that the increase in temperature or humidity, the spreading or outbreaks of the corona will be less. But as you have seen, that it is not true. It is not temperature dependent. Though I will tell you, some of the study I have done and I have gone through that from the environmental perspective or the environmental point of view, the spreading of the coronavirus can be temperature and humidity dependent. Simultaneously, it is also climatic factor dependent. So from the environmental perspective or from the environmental point of view, so many workers are doing on this area, but they have identified these two only. That means temperature and humidity. That may be the spreading or outbreaks of the coronavirus. It is dependent.
Thank you, sir. So there is one more question. If the polar ice caps start melting due to global warming, is there any chance of getting more infectious viruses active?
Okay, madam. Yeah, it is sure. You see, starting this infection of this virus, it is not new today. I have told you that 1,415 diseases so far, and out of 61% is genetic. And this out of this 61%, 70 diseases are directly related with the disease caused during the earlier animals. You consider the reindeer, you may consider the viruses, which is like coronabacterium, which is known as, I can tell you that it is known as coronabacterium Pleistocene. So from that period, the infection is coming. So it is not the end of the disease caused by virus in the year 2020. As it is told by Sir John Michel Claverie, that the infection or the pandemic disease must come from this permafrost as and when it will melt, and it is not the new one. It is the disease which has been already prevailed at the earlier time when the man was buried in the permafrost. So these diseases are coming, but it's sometimes in the mutated form. So the mutation, either it causes severity or it is not affecting the human being. So in the next decades or in the century, you can face any such diseases.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. I'm sure people are now aware about the importance of such invisible microbes. Even we cannot see them.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our request and delivering such a nice lecture. Thank you so
The
much.
thing is that I have got only 2 hours to prepare myself, and otherwise I see that I can prepare some slides also. But anyway,
Also, it was without slide. It was too much. Very good, sir. People appreciating a lot. Thank you so much. Sir.
Okay.
It was excellent, sir. Without slide, excellent.
Slide hota to sir kuch to or some information maybe that I have missed it, or what I have gathered immediately that I have told you.
So thank you so much, sir. With this, we end our today's session. So we'll meet again tomorrow in the morning.
Professor Gupta.
Yes, sir.
If possible, you can give me the certificate also.
Yes, sir. We will give you. We will give you. Okay. Yeah, yes, sir. We will give you.
And give the feedback, sir. And feedback from the participants also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Feedback. We will give you certificate, sir. As a presenter.
Okay.
E-certificate, we will send you e-certificate after the end.
Okay. No problem.
Yes, sir.
So thank you very much, everybody. We will meet again tomorrow at 2 o'clock for next session.